Good morning. Today is September 18th, a Saturday, and saw some things this morning which are not. There's something that's been going on. I've been coming to mind a lot lately, especially in the context of the pandemic that we've all been subjected to the past, well, going on 2 years, over 18 months, more like let's see. 21 months or something like that, since December 2019, was it? Anyhow, I see a lot of things, and I saw one this morning that, it just keeps coming to my mind, and the is vain persons and following after vain persons. If there is a pandemic, at least, let's call it an outbreak in at least the United States or the Western world. It's the cult of personality. It's celebrities of all ilk. So this means radio personalities, politics, local celebrities, rich and famous, right, of all kind, actors, actresses, musicians, comedians, you name it. All different stripes, but they're celebrities. They're famous, and generally they're wealthy, and they sort of lord over us with their influence, with the fascination with what they have to say. And if you have any sense at all, you can see how many are being used. And it raises the question, have they gotten their fame for this very purpose? Have they been promoted, enriched? That, for example, there are many musicians who are extremely talented, work extremely hard, very skilled, more so than many people who are rich and famous, who were effectually tapped, or a lot of people want to say luck would have it, they were in the right place at the right time. Well, there's that too. But there are people who are as skilled, talented, dedicated, creative, all these things that never, quote unquote, make it and achieve the kind of status that some of these people get. And I'm thankful again for what we're going through, because it separates the wheat from the chaff in ourselves and in our culture, in our society, I should say. You can see very clearly who's following after vain persons and who's following after truth. So, what prompted it this morning for me to say, all right, I want to talk about it. I just happened to be scrolling, and you've seen this before, and you've heard about it. And this is, I've never even listened to that. This is called Joe Russo's Almost Dead. Okay, got a great reputation as a Grateful Dead cover band. A lot of people prefer J-Rad, is what it goes by. Joe Russo's Almost Dead, over the most famous incarnation of the Dead in the modern times, and that would be Dead and Company. But anyway, Joe Russo's Almost Dead. Now, Dead and Company does this too, and so are many other artists. Another thing that prompted it this morning was I've gotten wind of Nicki Minaj making anti-vaccine comments, and I don't know much about her. I'm not a fan, but you hear things. So this kind of made the news. It reached me about this person that I don't pay any attention to whatsoever, and whatever her stance is, it's irrelevant here. What I want to talk about is this. So what I saw wasn't this giant thing here, but I'll read an excerpt of it. Let me see. Maybe I can see what came. I think it was just an advertisement that came through my feed. So the point is this. They have this disclaimer here. So they're touring. You know, a lot of musicians are back on the road, including Dead and Company, who's, I think, in Chicago this weekend. Right here. Attendees of this event, which is going to be in Asheville, North Carolina in a week, must be fully vaccinated or have received a negative C-19 test within 72 hours prior to entry to the event. In attending the event, you certify in a test that you and all individuals in your party attending the event will follow the below regulations. All fans must be fully vaccinated and provide proof of vaccination, or have received a negative test, a PCR antigen test, within 72 hours before the event, and provide proof. Now, there's so many things wrong with this, okay? This isn't a video about what's all wrong with this. If you don't know by now, this is wicked, anti-liberty. It's a control mechanism. It's a segregation mechanism. It's all kinds of things. I will say this about it. First of all, a PCR test, I don't know much about the antigen test, but a PCR test is worthless. Again, I'm not going to get into that. You should know by now. If you don't know, look into it. PCR tests are worthless, and this vaccine is no vaccine at all. You should know that by now. And, you know, what happened to the fact that we have HIPAA laws? People they're not obligated to disclose all their medical history and things like this. But now, if you want to go to a show and be part of getting back to normal, that's what it's all about. You know, it's okay to tour now for all these musicians. And everybody wants to get out and try to get some semblance of normalcy. And they will prostitute themselves to do it, to do almost anything to ease the pain of this isolation, of this just droning on, of the fear, of the, they want normal life again, right? Which may or may not be a good thing, okay? The fact that people are starting to be persecuted, and this is a form of persecution, okay? If you don't know that by now, I mean, you can just turn the video off because you really are, this is an advanced course, so to speak, okay? I don't have time to go back and go to the basics. Lost my train of thought. So it's not, I think I was talking about, it's not even a vaccination. It's not like a traditional, if you would, tested and acting in a way that is sort of almost naturally, I guess you'd say, stimulates a response of your own natural immune system. It does all kinds of other things, you know, and who knows? And there's quite a bit of evidence of, multitudes of people dying from the shot, multitudes of people being terminally injured, and we're talking nervous damage, strange things, all kinds of injuries, vaccine injuries. It's like all over the place. And there's a lot of evidence of a cover-up of this fact. And there's such a push and a shaming for people to get this thing. And I'm here to tell you, these people are part of this. Whether they know it or not, whether they're willingly or conscientiously doing this, or they're just deceived themselves and are part of just the Borg, the big organism of the spirit of unbelief works through. And there's a lot of that going on. But there are people that have been around a long time and ought to know better. And maybe they're just whores, or maybe they're just part of the deception intentionally and they're Luciferians. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter what's really going on with them. What matters is the end result and the fruit. Okay? So, they are pushing it so hard. I heard, I don't want to go too far enough in tangent. Driving down the road, had NPR on. There was some guy they were interviewing who was a Vietnam vet. He has stage 4 cancer. Said his bones looked like Swiss cheese. and he was scheduled for some surgery, but he couldn't get in the hospital. They had to cancel his surgery because of all the people that are in the hospital. And now this guy, he sounded had a feeble voice. He sounded older. Of course, he's a Vietnam vet. He's probably in his 70s. And if I didn't mention it, he was apparently believes he received the cancer, or he came down with this cancer because he was exposed to Agent Orange in Vietnam. It was all around where he was based, and so it's moving, and felt bad for the fella. But I also know enough to know that they're lying about numbers. They're lying about hospital occupancies and all that. Hey, all I got to do is say dancing nurses all over the world. If you don't know what that is, I mean, you've got to catch up. In fact, you probably aren't watching it. There's probably no one watching this video this far that doesn't know what I'm talking about. You have people saying, nurses and doctors even, that are saying that they have maybe one floor that was dedicated to it. They're just making stuff up to gin up a fear. So anyway, they're just plucking the heartstrings so hard about this guy can't get in the hospital. And then he speaks himself. I forgot how they segued into it or what they asked him, but he said, all of a sudden, I just immediately thought this story might even just be fiction, because he all of a sudden said, he goes, they were asking, I think they were asking about if he's angry or if he was upset or how he felt about that. Maybe that's how they came at it. It's how he felt. He goes, I am angry with the unvaccinated, because it's the ones who are unvaccinated who are causing this. Right away, it just is like, geez, the witchcraft, the spell they're putting on people with this stuff, the manipulation, the intimidation, the shaming is over the top. And I had to dismiss his story. This guy may not even have been a Vietnam vet. He may not have had cancer. This is fiction. All for the purpose of leading you up to that climactic emotional state that should help you, turns your attitude towards people who, what they call vaccine hesitant, which is a mind control word, who will resist it or who don't want to have it. And, on that note again, the video is not about this, but I guess we're going to go there for a second. Just look at all the nurses and doctors who are getting fired who worked all the way through this alleged crisis. Totally exposed, if they're being exposed to anything, by the way. And now these hospitals are saying, okay, you must take this clot shot, this kill shot, or you don't have a job. No matter how many years you've worked there, no matter your qualifications, no matter your dedication, no matter how far above and beyond you went, no matter that you never got sick through the entire thing, or that you did have it and now you're immune. Have it is still very debatable. And now you must be fired. You're terminated. You need to leave the building. There's videos on this. There's people video them, security and their supervisors saying you have to leave. It's very, very weird. It's a weird vibe when you listen to these people. They're like possessed robots that are just, you can tell they just despise these people. It's very strange. But we're living in strange times because we're living in the end times. Paul, the Apostle Paul, was he basically implied or said that even in his day, this is almost 2,000 years ago, that these are the last days. But look how far down the road we are. And we're born in this very end, and so we don't really have a concept. I mean, it really boggles the mind to think of what 1,000 years or 2,000 years is. It's weird to think back 100 years or 200 years and think of it as now, or we're living in the modern time. We really don't have the greatest perspective, and perspective may play into this a little bit as well, because I'm going to talk about comparing ourselves to others, even if we are in the truth and seeking the truth. I hope to remember to talk about that. All right, so let's forget about this this any of the outrageousness of the particulars of the situation, and talk about these pushing these people who are celebrities, who are holding a carrot of normalcy, who are holding a carrot on a stick of normalcy, of fun, of socialization, of getting back into society, of getting back to normal, out in front of people who are paying them a lot of money, but they're shutting people out who won't jump through these hoops. Now, if you're somebody who says, well, what's the big deal? I can just get a test. Well, apparently they're not free. So you're paying, somebody's profiting off of this. They're not accurate. They don't mean anything except you jump through their hoops. That's all it means, is that you are willing to prostitute yourself, basically, to go to this. Now, I know someone who has done this, and I'm not trying to shame that person. These are facts. I think intellectually they understand that, even though I think when they see that for the Dead & Company tour, they announced it like after most of the people had purchased tickets already, very close to like kickoff, and that's kind of a bait and switch, in my opinion, and wrong, unethical. What I just said, Dead & Company, unethical. That wasn't right. Poor ethics. They knew they were going to do this. If you think at the last minute somebody just all of a sudden learned something about a resurgence or this and that, and all of a sudden they freaked out. No, they planned this. They planned this. They planned to get everybody roped in, committed financially, and spring this on them. So there's pressure. They're going to get a good percentage of people who are like, well, that's a bummer, but I guess I just do it. It's just a test, And some of them, that pushed them over the edge to get this injection of poison. I don't have a problem calling it poison. Anything that you inject into your bloodstream that is made in the lab has all kinds of stuff in it. You don't even know what's in it. And by the way, on note, in case you don't know, the patents for these things allow them to put anything in it, so they can change their ingredients in their different iterations of or different manufacturer. What do you call it? Batches. They're different batches. They can change it. They have verbiage in there that basically is a wild card. Think about that. That alone right there is sinister. So that means they could get people used to doing this. And if you've been outside or turned on the radio or anything at all, you already know about there's more than 2 shots involved. We're talking more and more, and even maybe every 6 months, and boosters, and on and on. I mean, if you didn't see this coming, welcome to reality now. Okay, I saw it coming. That doesn't mean I'm any smarter than anybody or anything else. It just happens to be that I've been awake to their tricks for quite some time, and I've had teachers. I started listening to radio shows, and mainly it's the teacher is the Holy Spirit and the Word of God. But I've listened to people who talk in terms of prophecy and talk in terms of end times and things like this, and you start to pick up things. Even people who may not even be believers, but they've identified that maybe they're just anti-authoritarian. Who knows? They've identified flaws and major narratives in our history. Of course, what I'm talking about is people called conspiracy theorists, right? Well, many of them are conspiracy scientists, consider the evidence. Anyhow, once again, this video is not on, it's not a lot to watch. It's actually a message to listen to, not really a video. But there are a few things that I'll put on the screen here. But let's jump into it. So Joe Roos is almost dead. The Dead & Company have done this. Jim Brewer canceled some shows because the venues wanted him to do this. He's a comedian. Came out with a video the other day. I happened to watch it. He's very, very intelligent, and he's pretty real, seems to be. and he had some things to say. Some of it was passionate and opinionated, but he's against this, and I don't have a link to it or anything, but I want to read you from the Word in Judges 9:4. Now this is I didn't research this whole story. Basically, I remembered some verses about following vain persons, and this one came up. And it says, "And they gave him 70 pieces of silver out of the house of Balberith, wherewith Abimelech hired vain and light persons, which followed him." Now, I pulled up from the commentary, which I'm going to read. So, this is Matthew Henry. He's one of my favorite commentators on the Bible. And Matthew Henry's whole commentary on the Bible is super thick and fine print. And I wish I had started reading it when I was 12. And maybe I'd be somewhere halfway through by now. But of course, I didn't have a heart for that kind of thing at 12. Not the way I do now. And even now at this age, there's energy and time to contend with that, and other distractions that make it very difficult to. I'm in admiration, and this is actually going to play into this message. I'm in admiration of a man like Matthew Henry or Charles Spurgeon, who they were very prolific in things they wrote, and the things they wrote were so high quality and so helpful and such a blessing. It's a richness that's worth more than its weight in gold, way more than its weight in gold. And that expression, more than its weight in gold, is just completely fails, but you get the idea. So they didn't have television and cell phones and concerts everywhere to go any day of the week, pretty much. And the means to get there quickly. Like people now, they can live a couple hours from a major city and want to catch a show, and they jump in their car and go, or catch a ride with a friend, for example. And now there's comedy shows and musical shows and dramas and orchestras and you name it. There's all kinds of things. But back in the 1800s, we're talking people that didn't have the means to travel that far that fast, and there wasn't this kind of thing going on. And to be able, they had the Bible. They were educated in the Bible, and they also had realized how much is in it. I mean, it's such a rich book. Even I don't think about it like that, like I should. Like I every time you pick it up and read it, it's alive. There's things that can come out to you and give you things to think about, and not only just entertainment on electronically or going to concerts or venues for things. Think about the books there are out there, the fiction books. So I know someone in a book club right now, and it's a lot of girls, and it's unfortunate because they meet every week. How fun, but they read these fiction novels. So they give a lot of their personal time, and then they get together, socialize, and discuss it. But these books are just vanity, they're fiction. And there's a lot of books out there that are worth reading, that aren't necessarily the Bible. But there's just so much vanity. And like if you're following an author like Danielle Steele, for example, I've never read a Danielle Steele, but I know what they're about. Or what's his name? The horror guy. I can see his face. A lot of movies were made. Stephen King, is that who I'm thinking of? Yeah, I think Stephen King. It's just vanity. It's all fiction. It's interesting. And maybe there's some things you can glean or learn about. And we do, I have to make a disclaimer. I hate having to do this, but this isn't to say all entertainment or anything that's light and distracting is purely evil in and of itself. And there's a place for these things. But we're talking about balance, really. So is it evil to go see some concert? Well, not necessarily. But, there are people who, they spend a lot of money on this. They go from place to place. they follow multiple people, and they don't say, but they follow multiple people. They just love going out to these things, and they're not cheap. It takes a lot of time. And anyway, let's move on. I'm going to read this a little bit here. How unfit was he to reign over Israel? Because unless he defend them, who instead of restraining and punishing idolatry, thus early made himself a pensioner to an idol. Okay, now that may not have made sense because I had a little intermission there between reading the verse and this, and even still, without knowing the full context and the story here, it's hard to really get a lot out of it other than we know he was unfit to reign over Israel. Okay, but this is the part. What soldiers he enlisted. He hired into his service vain and light persons, the scum and scoundrels of the country, men of broken fortunes, giddy heads, and profligate lives. None but such would own him, and they were fitted to serve his purpose, like leader, like followers. Now you have to think about that. I want to talk a minute about the word profligate because it's a word that we don't use a lot. I don't hear it a lot. But it basically, why I think about it, it's because there's so much profligate, there's people, it's normal. So it's not a word we use a lot to distinguish. So a definition of profligate in Merriam-Webster, number 1 is wildly extravagant, as in profligate spending. Number 2 is dissipation and licentiousness, shamelessly immoral, leading a profligate life. Here's an entry. A person given to wildly extravagant and usually grossly self-indulgent expenditure. Now you can apply this. You can anywhere you shake a stick, you can apply this to celebrities, politicians, and whatnot. This just happened. This was in the news. If you think about it, that wretch of a woman, because that's what it comes down to. She needs salvation. She needs to be born again, and that's AOC, Alexandria Cortez, and that gala, Metropolitan Gala. I don't know if it's annual or whatever, but it's a big affair. It's like $35,000 a plate, and she wore like a $30,000+ dress that said "Tax the Rich" on the back of it. Wildly extravagant, grossly self-indulgent expenditure. Okay, this is a profligate person leading a profligate lifestyle. Now, I'm not saying that she's abusing substances and things like this. I don't know. But she is shamelessly immoral. And immorality doesn't be sexual immorality. About that regarding her. She's immoral. She wants to steal from people. She promotes thievery. And she's a proponent pushing her ideas by point of the gun. Why? She's in the pushes laws that basically at the point of the gun is going to rob people. At the end of the day, she's a whore, meaning I don't mean a sexual whore. I don't know about that, but she's whored out her life to have this position and wealth. Who knows if she even believes what? Because we have people like that. So that's going to bring me to another thing. So we're going to move on from profligate. Message and video as I thought I would be. I think because I focused between starting to put it together and then getting things ready, I sort of I'm not as my mind's not as, it's not flowing as like it was at first when I started getting excited enough about the ideas I was having I want to share to make the video. So please forgive me. So moving on. So in Psalm 26:4, I have not sat with vain persons, neither will I go in with dissemblers. Now, I want to explain, it's another word that we want to talk about the definition of, because we don't use it very much. Dissemblers, okay? A dissembler is a person who professes beliefs and opinions that he or she does not hold in order to conceal her real feelings or motives. So there's a lot of, in my opinion, seems there's a lot of people who are, they push beliefs, especially in this narrative about the planned. Gavin Newsom, for example, hypocrite. You know, he just recall election and won it in California because one of the things that finally got the signatures to actually affect a recall election was the fact that in the midst of like lockdowns and telling people to mask up and not go to restaurants and whatever he was saying, all the things that were just horrifically dictatorial and tyrannical. But then they catch him on video, no mask, sitting in a restaurant, a very expensive prestigious restaurant called the French Laundry in California. It's been featured on TV shows and things like that. And so he's there at a party, dinner party, no mask, basically hypocritically. Now, so what does that tell you? Does he really believe the narrative? He wants you to believe it and follow the dictates. So it makes him not just a hypocrite, a dissembler. All right? So same with AOC, as they call her. Tax the rich, but she's living a wealthy lifestyle. She has beliefs and opinions that really hold. Away her money. Okay? So, you see what I mean? So, these are vain people that we're constantly bombarded with messages about. I'm going to get back to... now, you may say, well, I don't follow after I hear about... Well, I hear about them too. I don't follow them either. But I do. So, I like to watch a lot of interviews with people. I learn things from it, but I recognize in myself there are people, especially musicians, that when I was a teenager and I got into different kinds of music and bands and individual solo artists or whatever, that I was sort of fascinated with what they had to say. The music is enchanting. It's like, how do they make that? It's so powerful. It's almost mysterious. It has its own life in the song or in the album. It's like, wow. It's like, how did they come up with this? It's like wizardry, Well, there is a lot of wizardry involved. There's a lot of skill involved. There's a lot of happy accidents. I mean, I've studied how to make music and the things that most of us are familiar with as great music or great musicians. It involves a lot of people. It's very polished, and there's a lot of processing that goes on, and a lot of rehearsing before they take it on the road too. But a lot of what you hear on the road is a lot of mimicry of what they finally created in a studio on an album, using engineers and all kinds of effects and equipment and balancing and all these kinds of things to get it just right, which is fine. That's fine. But the point being is that as an impressionable youngster, early teens, mid-teens, late teens, that period of time, there's something called imprinting. We've all seen it when a duck crosses the road and the little chicks follow their mama, okay? We've, I'm sure, all seen a video of a orphan duck or something like that imprints, or not even a duck, it could be a baby pig or something. They imprint on the person who rescues them or cares for them. And they basically act like they're their leader when they are, they look up to them. They mimic them in certain ways. They do these kinds of things. And we're built that way to pattern after good works, to pattern after great values, to have great parents that train us up in the way that we should go, that we won't depart from it in more ways than one. The way we're gifted, and the way we should go, the way we're our personalities and things, but most importantly, to train us up in the Word of God. The Israelites were instructed to wear the Word, like they had these things on their forehead. I mean, they had the Word of God written everywhere, that they would not depart from it and forget it. It was so, it was their focus, And anyway, I have not sat with vain persons, neither will I go in with dissemblers. Okay, so I'm going to stop riffing here for a minute, and I'm just going to read you Matthew Henry's commentary on that. It's kind of long. I'll try to read it with the right inflections. So he had no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, nor with the workers of those works. The next verse here, by the way, says, I have hated the congregation of evildoers, and I will not sit with the wicked. Okay. By this it appeared he was truly loyal to his prince, which means the Lord, the Christ, that he never associated with those that were disaffected to his government. So I'm going to talk about being we're to be governed by the word of God, by the kingdom of God, righteousness, peace, and joy. The word of God. There are a lot of people who hate it, and they hate those who follow it or even promote it. There's plenty of people who fall short, but they still believe and point the way, right? He was so loyal to his prince, he never associated with those that were disaffected to his government, with any of those sons of Belial that despised him. I'll read the verse that's referenced here. It's from Samuel 10:27. But the children of Belial said, How shall this man save us? And they despised him and brought him no presents, but he held his peace. Okay, I'm going to move on from that. He was in none of their cabals, nor joined with them in any of their intrigues. He cursed not the king, no, not in his heart. And this also was an evidence of his faithfulness to his God, that he never associated with those who he had any reason to think were disaffected to religion, or were open enemies or false friends to its interests. Now, I want to point out that when he uses the word religion, he's not talking about Islam and Catholicism and Hinduism and Shintoism and you name it. This is the good and pure religion, the religion undefiled, which is that of the one true God, whose Son died for our sins. Okay. So I want to pause right here, and I want to go over to nugs.net, and I want to talk about a song by the Grateful Dead, which came out in the mid-'80s, and it's called Going to Hell. It's called Hell in a Bucket. Okay. So this was from the Clarkston, Michigan, which is a week ago, and a week ago yesterday, I think. And I don't know if I upload this to YouTube, this might get me in trouble to play a little bit of this, but I want to point something out. So I don't know how well the audio is going to come through, but I want to say this. Grateful Dead was one of those bands I really liked and still like the music, okay? That doesn't change, but my relationship to it has, over the years, quite a bit. In fact, by the grace of God, because I had a relationship with God early on, even though I was not, still belonged, and he was still guiding me, and I was different from people who didn't have this. But of course I was deceived. I like the song. I do like the song, but I can't get into it. I can appreciate, okay, it's like this, and I was just telling somebody this yesterday. It's like a joke. If you hear a joke or comedian, and you can appreciate the devices that make the joke funny, but the actual joke itself is pretty perverse, and you're probably not going to repeat it, You can appreciate the mechanics of it. So I can appreciate the song and how it works and why it's, kind of feels good and sounds good. It's interesting, all these kinds of things. And it's original. It's a unique song. And it's called Hell in a Bucket. And I want to point out, that it's the lyrics, I didn't pull them up or anything, but the video came out on MTV back in the 80s, and, it had everything. Had the girls, had the motorcycles, it basically is, kind of this lifestyle where, I'm living a wild life, but at least I'm enjoying the ride type of thing. Okay. And going to hell in a bucket is sort of a colloquialism, it's going to hell in a bucket. you know. But I want to point something out here. Okay, now this is a big event. People pay a lot of money to go to it, and this is a huge production, and there's a lot going on here. Let me make this bigger. I'm going to play it for a couple minutes, but I want you to pay attention because I'm going to comment on it when they get to the audience.
Up and down your carpeted halls, you'll see me by contrast crop up. Never mind, I stumble and fall. No, never mind, I stumble and fall. You imagine me sipping champagne from the moon for a taste of your elegant pie. Maybe going to hell in a bucket, baby. But at least I'm enjoying the ride. At least I'm enjoying the ride. Yeah, at least I'm enjoying the ride.
Okay, I'm going to pause right here. This gal is really giving over to it and having a great time. You know, she's dancing. A lot of people are having a good time, you know. But they don't know what they're playing at, a lot of them, in my opinion. How do I know? Because I know what it's like to be there. Not a Dead & Company show, but similar. Trying to have a good time and not thinking about what's really you're hearing, you know. In fact, some of these people may not know the lyrics, or they may be new to the Dead, and they're just getting into the beat and the atmosphere and all these. That's all fine. However, these things are important. Okay, they were important to the band when they wrote the song. Now, going to hell in a bucket is the colloquialism that's used as a lyric in here. At least I'm enjoying the ride is sort of the snarky kind of tagline on there that makes the chorus. Okay, however, I want you to think about it like this for a second. These people are dancing and giving themselves over to it and having a great time, but what are they really singing along to? Because there are a lot of people singing along too. Okay, we're talking thousands and thousands of people there, and most of them, majority of them, are Deadheads. Like, they are familiar with the Dead, or they used to go to shows when they were younger, because the crowd definitely has gotten older. And what they're really saying, though, is I may be going to hell, but I'm enjoying the ride. Try to hear it like that for a second. Forget the in the bucket part, because in the bucket, combined with going to hell in a bucket, it goes down the throat easily. Where I'm going to hell and enjoying the ride, that would go down like a sideways stick. Okay? People aren't going to sing that, even if they like the song. They're going to be like, that's kind of weird. But this is how the spoonful of honey makes the medicine go down. And what's the medicine? The chorus, the resounding chorus is, I may be going to hell, but I'm enjoying the ride. And we're dancing and having a good time, and hey, we're going to have a great time. F it. Sort of the attitude of the song, okay? Or I do this, and that's just how I am. You know, you got to see the video to kind of know what I mean on that. And it's a jointed video, there's weird stuff in it. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I do remember it was like, you know, motorcycles and hot chicks and tigers and bar scenes and, you know, all this kind of stuff. So let me play it a little more. Okay, I want to pause right there. So this is John Mayer, and he is wearing, I noticed, and because I've watched a few, I get it popped up to me. I get these previews, and I watched a lot of it out of curiosity. This is like a talisman. I have not been able to figure out what it is, but he's got this necklace on he's been wearing every night, and it has like, it looks like a turquoise something here, some kind of like feathers that are metal, and something else. And I would say this is some kind of talisman. All right. Then on his shirt, he wears various different outfits, but he's got Mickey Mouse. Oh, how fun. How cute. Well, think about who Mickey Mouse is. If you don't know by now, Disney was a pervert and who made children's films, cartoons, and things like this with all kinds of subliminal, perverted messages. including with Mickey Mouse. Okay? So that's some kind of symbol. It's not just a shirt. If you think it is, you don't understand. Okay, another thing. Now, this is a lot more sinister looking. They call this Bertha, which is a skull with roses on it. But this is really sinister looking. And there's 3 of them. And this is another topic, but, this is up there. Like, most of the audience is on something. They're baked, meaning they're stoned on marijuana. And or they're taking LSD and or mushrooms, and I see some of them drinking alcohol as well. Okay, but the fact is that they get, just like in the old time temples, the part of the worship is being intoxicated. And what are they doing with these skulls up here? It's like, I'm gonna look this up now. Okay, we're going a little sideways. Verses come to mind, but I don't always know their exact location. Okay, one second. I may have to look it up online, because if I don't get the exact words right in worship death, okay? Those who worship death. I see come up. Let me pull it up here. Revelation 21, 3 through 6. So let me see what I got. Revelation 21, 3 through 6. Just a moment. It's important. It's part of the story. So again, we're talking about vanity. We're following after vain persons, Who do we follow after? Who are we always trying to pay attention to see what they think? Who do we always pay attention to like lend our brains and emotions over to, Are we following after vain persons? Just a moment. Almost there. (21, 3 to 6). Okay, I had it wrong. Just a moment. Okay. All right. Well, I feel like I just ruined the whole video here, because this does not have it, and I spent a bunch of time on it. I know there's a verse that says that who love death. That's what it is. Hang on a minute. Let me put love death in there. That's what it is. It's in Proverbs. I know where it is, but not the exact place. I'll just search under love death. Those who love death. Oh yeah, got it. Okay. Proverb 8:36 says, "But he that sins against me wrongs his own soul, and all they that hate me love death." Think about that. So in 1 John 3:14 it says, "We know that we have passed from death unto life, because we love the brethren. He that loves not his brother abides in death." But anyway, the main one is Proverbs 8:36. "He that sinneth against me wrongeth his own soul. All they that hate me love death." Now, their name is the Grateful Dead. The story of how they found it was flipping over a dictionary because they couldn't think of a name, and Jerry Garcia landed his finger on Grateful Dead, and it just there's a meaning to it. It's about people who died and they couldn't pay for their funeral, and then somebody would pay for it for them, and they were called the Grateful Dead. So nevertheless, there's a lot of permutations of what that means and ways to spin it. And one of the icons was this skull, or the skeleton with rose, like a crown of roses on its head, and I believe they call it Bertha. Well, it doesn't look exactly like this. This is a scary looking thing here, And so they put this up there and singing, I'm going to hell and enjoying the ride. And he's got his Mickey Mouse pervert shirt on. And everyone's dancing and having a great time while these three ominous looking figures of death, faces of death, gaze out upon them. I mean, this is really kind of sick. You know? Let me go to one more revisit of the chorus here, so we'll have to endure the verse.
Somehow, baby got arms and kicks. With your black hair and coat spot suspenders, your chair and your whip and your pets. Oh, we know you're the reincarnation of the ravenous Catherine Gray. And we know how you love your ovations and the Z-ray scenes you create. Yeah, Z-ray scenes you create. Imagine you sipping champagne for a taste of your elegant pie. Maybe going to hell in a bucket plate, but you just don't enjoy the ride. Just don't enjoy the ride. Yeah, at least I'm enjoying the ride.
All right, it's enough. There's one guy who's headbanging there with his beer in his hand, and he's just really into the whole beat of it, going into kind of a trance. And singing and rejoicing, I'm going to hell and enjoying the ride. We're having a great time. We're at the Dead and Company show, man. We made the scene. We're where it's at. We're hip. We feel good, man. We're with our family of people going to hell and enjoying the ride. Well, that's a shame. And these are vain people. And once you know that, you might be able to, distance yourself and not be so affected by it. But at the same time, we're to be redeeming the time. Our time is precious. What we give ourselves over to, what we spend our loot on. There's tickets that go in here for hundreds of dollars to get down close to the stage, in what they call the pavilion. Everybody in the pavilion section are people who follow after vain persons. Every one of them. Because they've followed after people who told them they've bought into the fear, they bought into the narrative, they don't know shit from Shinola, and they took this poison into their holy temple. Okay? Everybody under the roof, it's called the pavilion, had to be vaccinated. So the primal people, they're getting to enjoy this. They're true worshipers. Let's put it that way. They're true worshipers. They're true fans. The ones who are really with the program. They are in the not necessarily the Holy of Holies. They're in the inner court, in the pavilion. The people who just took the test are in the outer court. Thank God there's only the outer court, inner court, and the Holy of Holies. I think that's how it goes. It's been a long time since I studied what the temple is, but it's sort of a type and shadow, or type, isn't it? So the people in the pavilion are in the inner court, and they've all they're not quite the high priests that are in with the band, but they're in the inner court. If you will go so far as to take a bite of this apple, so to speak, then you are going to be privileged to be down front with us. And also, by the way, it's going to cost you a few $100. All right, let me move on here because I didn't finish reading this. And once again, we're gotten to a long video. You have to ask yourself, by the way, as I look back and trying to find my place in this commentary, are these folks disaffected to religion? Meaning disaffected to the word Christianity? I know I would have a hard time. I could intellectually do gymnastics and, cover a song like or something. But, it would still bother me. I don't think I could tour on it and want to be famous and paid for it and get all these people who are, most of them are definitely intoxicated on something. They're getting out of their mind. And I'm not judging or condemning for them for that, but I'm just telling you it has an antecedent in how they used to worship in the pagan temples, okay, in ancient times and in Rome and things like this, and Greece. Are they disaffected to truth, to the Word of God? Are they open enemies or false friends to its interests? I would say, yeah. I don't know any of these people individually. I like John Mayer. He's funny. He's really smart. All these kinds of things. I like Bob Weir. This has nothing to do with it. But there's a lot of things I just I can't unsee, right? I can't unsee them. And what's sad is I wonder that they see it. I have to believe Bob Weir sees it. It's really sad. And so for me, the music and all this stuff, it gets overridden by the reality of the situation, that these men are lost, that they are completely subsumed or consumed with the world and all its trappings, fame, money, success. Oh yeah, they maybe give to charity. And, Bob Weir, and I think most of these are part of Get Out the Vote, they go a long way to get everyone to vote. It's not about getting educated. It's not about studying history. It's about if you're 18, you should be voting. Not so, Joe. I don't believe anybody should vote. Well, I know no one should vote. You should not vote if you don't know what you're throwing in with. And most people don't. They don't really know what they're throwing in with, or what they're pushing for. Because many of the people that they're voting for are vain people. They're dissemblers, right? What do we say dissemblers were? Dissemblers are people, go back to that, who profess beliefs and opinions that they don't hold in order to consider their real feelings or motives. All right. Yeah, it's a mixed up, muddled up, shook up world, as Ray Davies likes to sing. All right. So, okay, great care to avoid bad company is both a good evidence of our integrity and a good means to preserve us in it. Now observe here that part of his protestation looks backward upon the care he had previously taken in the matter, and forward upon the care he would still take. Quote, I have not sat with them, and I will not go in with them. So both forwards and backwards. He didn't do it, and he's not going to do it. Note, our good practices, thereto, are then evidence of our integrity when they are accompanied with resolutions and God's strength to persevere in them to the end, and not to draw back, and our good resolutions for the future we may then take the comfort of when they are the continuation of our good practices from before. It's a lot to read. It's a lot to take in. It's probably better if you read it yourself. Again, this is from the commentary in Matthew Henry on Psalm 26:4. Okay, the next comment on that is number 2, that David shunned the company not only of wicked persons, but of vain persons, that were wholly addicted to mirth and gaiety, and nothing solid or serious in them. The company of such may perhaps be the more pernicious of the two to a good man, because he will not be so ready to stand upon his guard against the contagion of vanity as that of downright wickedness. Whoa, that is really, really good and really deep and a lot of words to take in. It's worth reading twice, and I'm going to have to curtail this because the video is going to be too long, and I don't myself even like videos that are long anymore. David shunned the company not only of wicked persons but of vain persons. And so it goes on to say at the end that the company of dissemblers or vain persons is just as dangerous as company as any, and as much to be shunned in prudence as well as piety. Oh, hang on, I skipped. That was the next thing. I skipped what I wanted to jump back to. David shunned the company not only of wicked persons but of vain persons. And it says the company of such may be more pernicious of the two, meaning vain persons more pernicious than wicked persons. Because a good man will not be so ready to be on his guard against the contagion of it. We've all heard, bad company corrupts good morals, and that's what it's saying. We might be able to stand against, and you see it all the time, read the comments on YouTube, against downright wickedness. There's plenty of crime shows, and the people are just indignant and outraged and pronouncing judgment and what they would do to the guy who did this and all this kind of stuff. They are outright against wickedness. Let me say it this way. They are outright against downright wickedness. And well, good. They might be able to say to the guy that says, come on, join with me. We're going to go, I'll pay you $50,000 if you'll help me hide this evidence, because I'm going to kill this person for the insurance, for example. This happens. And somebody yields because that's a lot of money, but in the end, they get life sentences or death penalty too, right? But the point being is, like, there are people who don't even stand up against downright wickedness. But how many of us, even those who are against downright wickedness and outright wickedness, can we guard against the contagion of vanity and against the contagion of dissemblers, the influence of dissemblers? We're not so ready to stand on our guard when we're around people who are given to mirth and gaiety and seem like good people, but in the end, there's nothing solid or serious in them. And what is solid and serious? The Word of God. It's the rock. He is the rock that is stronger than I. That's solid. We need to be in all gravity, so seriousness. So, again, disclaimer, this isn't, you can't have fun, laugh, and all this stuff, but these are things to ruminate over, to consider in the way of course of our life. I want to read this whole thing. Let me see the next two verses here. He that tills his land shall be satisfied with bread, but he that follows after vain persons is void of understanding. So now, if you follow, and I didn't look up the Greek on the word follow here, that would have been important, or actually, yeah, would that have been the Hebrew? I'd probably have to be in the Hebrew because it's in the Old Testament here. He that followeth vain persons is void of understanding. And, well, I think I can do that real quick. Let me just do that. Let's see what that was. Proverbs. Just a moment. Proverbs 12:11. So let me jump over there. I was gonna come back around to something that I thought I hoped I remembered, and now I don't remember what it was. Okay. Hebrew definition follows vain persons. Because you think to yourself, like I would, well, do I really follow him though? I may watch a video here or there. I may pop the CD in my thing. I may watch an interview with some movie star. Do I really follow him though? Because I don't really follow them. Well, let's see what it says. I don't know. It's a surprise to me. Here we go. To run after, usually with hostile intent. Okay. Figuratively, of time gone by, to chase, put to flight, follow after, hunt, persecute. All right, it's a little confusing there because this is almost a hostile intent towards that person. So I got to think about that. To run after, I think we should just stop there, because this, at least the way I am seeing it, means to follow or take into your company, just like Abimelech did. They followed after a vain person in him, and he brought vain people to himself. If you remember the first verse I read, to run after. I think a modern application here is you following people that are promoting mirth and vanity, and that's all they do. And listen, that doesn't mean there's not a place in our society. We live in a society in an age of specialization. We aren't all jack of all trades. We've got to make a living. Some people do have musical gifts and abilities, and there's a place for song. But wouldn't it rather, I mean, there are people who do this. They give their talents over when they come to all seriousness, as it were. They give their talents over to, like, I was a musician of this ilk, making rock and roll songs, but now I want to praise the Lord. I want to sing worship songs. I want to record hymns. That, one thing about the difference between hymns and worship songs and praise songs and things like that. So it's kind of nuanced, but I will say this about hymns, the old-timey hymns. They really help impart doctrine. They aren't just a stanza or chorus that sounds good, that's touchy-feely about loving the Lord and all this stuff. No, they really talk about doctrine in the hymns, the classical hymns. So again, this can be a little bit off-putting because it maybe sounds like I'm saying like, oh, you shouldn't listen to any music but Christian music, or you shouldn't watch any shows but Christian shows. I mean, we need to be in the world but not of it, And we also need to be, people get really excited about this movie they saw that was just 2 hours of just like violence and sex and this. Oh, you gotta see it; it's so good, We might see a movie like that, but I don't think that we who don't follow after vain persons are going to be pushing it. We might be aware of it. Sometimes you have to I prayed this before. It's one of those prayers that you got to take a lot of thought into praying it. I recommend praying it, but I got to tell you, you don't know what you're in for. When you pray to know the depths of evil in this world, you want to know the wickedness of sin, the sinfulness of sin. Lord, show me the sinfulness of sin. Why wouldn't he answer that prayer? He wants us to turn from sin. He died because we're sinners. And so few of us, me, all right, we don't really grasp the sinfulness of sin, the egregiousness of it, how dark the darkness is. It's a prayer like, Lord, give me patience. Well, all of a sudden, everywhere you go, everything's gonna try your patience. Because it's a fruit in us. We're to have patience. We're to be patient in teaching people things. Not get frustrated, and it takes time to work that in us. It's a fruit. Fruit takes time to grow. There's times it just isn't ripe yet, and but I don't think it's a kind of fruit that ever gets too ripe. Patience is going to be a perfect gift and a perfect fruit when it's had its full manifestation in someone. Maybe never does in this life, but the point is, God is patient and he is perfect. Okay, I really want to wrap this video up because it's maybe not gone everywhere I wanted it to go. Maybe I should do it again. I hope you enjoyed this, breakdown of, you got to realize I'm throwing something I like out there as a sacrifice in a way. Like I like it, but I have to condemn certain things about it, and I just it just isn't right to be dancing and shaking your bones to the fact that you're rehearsing a chorus that expresses that you're on your way to hell, and you like it. Do you? Oh, it's just a song. Yeah, well, it's just a shot. It's just a mask. It's just 2 weeks. It's just a lockdown for a little while. It's just another lockdown, It's just you got to save yourself from the it's justas, because it's basically the proverbial camel sticking its nose in the Arab's tent. If you don't know that story, the camel is cold out and his master is in his tent, and he says, "Can I just put my nose inside? It's so cold." The master lets him put his nose inside. He wakes up and the camel's nose inside, but not only his nose, his head and his ears. And he said, "Oh, it's so cold." Next thing you know, the air is out of the tent, the camel's in the tent. It's incrementalism, what I'm trying to say. So that's not the best way to tell that parable, but there you go. So you're going to see this more and more, vain people who are because they influence the people that follow after celebrities and vain people, whether they be the authoritarianness of having an office, whether it's your mayor, your local health, what do they call them, health commissioners, the person at the health department in your town who is the director. It's usually a doctor or something like that, because that's happened where I live. And this gal, I would hear her on the local news saying, her mentality was everyone in this county will be vaccinated. I wanted to write her a letter, but what's the point? It's they're not coming to my house and vaccinating me. They're going to get a different kind of shot. Okay. Because I've decided this is a hill I will die on. They will not, because I believe this is the mark of the beast. I mean, this really is. You can't buy or sell unless you take this mark. And how far this is going to keep going, let's say 3 years from now, and I don't know the future, this is all lifted. This is all ancient history, and things are kind of back to normal. I don't really see that happening. Does this mean you won't be able to buy or sell a thing? Well, the Bible doesn't say that. But it does say that no man will be able to buy or sell. Well, right now, I can't buy or sell certain things in certain places. I can't go to a restaurant in New York unless I show them I've been vaccinated. I can't buy there, right? The people who have the restaurants there, they can't sell if they don't comply. So there's applications for it. In my opinion, why not? I'm trying to live as it were the last days, and maybe this isn't it, but it sure is a type and shadow of what it really is. And so I'm comfortable saying, this is the mark of the beast, and I'm going to refuse it, and whatever that costs. If that means that I'm finally nomadically, living on the outskirts of society, eating out of a garbage dump, till the Lord takes me or returns, well, that's what's going to happen, because I'm not taking this thing. There's nothing I want. I don't want any concerts. I don't need to have super special processed delicacies out of their grocery stores. I don't need to have their highways and freeways in a motor vehicle. Maybe they're going to make it so you can't drive or go interstate. That's probably what I should say, because they've talked about that. Can't travel from state to state. Well, there's probably ways around that, so that makes you now an outlaw. And I'm comfortable with that, because if we're not of the world, we're gonna be outlaws. So you got to make up your mind right now that your law is the Word of God. That laws from satanic forces are not laws you comply with. We have evidence of that in the Bible. Okay, we can be outlaws and still be righteous. Now, the people who are given over to Satan and they believe that the state is God, Caesar is God, well, to them, you're going to be an outlaw. But this is my Father's house. He created this world. And, nobody's going to tell me that I can't move freely, I've always maintained that I'm a free man. And if you put me in any place in the world, I'm still a free man. Oh, but what if you were in the middle of the Taliban? You're not free there. You can't. Oh, sure, you can walk free. You might get killed, but you're free. So are you going to now become a Muslim and all this? And so because you're not free then, you're a slave to your fear of death. Always comes back to a fear of death. Not just physically dying, but for somebody to not go to concerts anymore, for them that's a kind of death. Maybe for some it's worse than death. I can't go to the movies or a concert, or I can't go to the local football game anymore because I can't show that I'm free of this alleged plague. And I haven't taken the medical community's edict of what I must do, take poison to prove that I'm okay. It's all lies anyway. It's all BS, total BS. And in fact, it's counter to the truth. It's counter that makes people healthier and stuff. God gave you an immune system. I live by Psalm 91, that these pestilences and things like this, no evil is going to befall my house. Excuse me. He will preserve me. And may you have that kind of faith. I've been nearly killed before. I had cancer before. If I was to have died, I'd be dead. And when it's time for me to go, it'll be time for me to go. Okay. Now I'm not out there, base diving, base jumping, tempting the Lord, relying on a bungee cord and this to stop from certain death, from jumping off a 1,000-foot rock cliff. hey, people who have the stomach for that, if they can do that, I just think it's a bit foolish, because accidents do happen, and that's not that level of fun is not the core of purpose of my life, and you're banking everything on that working out, you know. All right, well, I'm a little bit all over the place here, and I hope there was something of value in this. I don't think I covered it the way I wanted to, and didn't cover everything that I wanted to, but even I get tired of hearing myself talk. So I'm going to wrap it up here. Don't follow vain persons. Recognize who vain people are. Maybe that's one of the key components, key takeaways, is realize that all these people who seem like good things, or things you like, or people you like, or bands you like, or movie stars you like. I mean, I have them I like, but you know what? You and I need to get our convictions and our course and direction, even though it's counter to the people we have formerly admired. We don't follow after them anymore. I admit, when I was younger, I followed after certain vain people, and it had a horrendous effect on my life. A certain lifestyle, certain behaviors that were glorified in this vain person and by this vain person. When I say they're glorified in this vain person, meaning these people are famous. You know, they got that way, and their bad behavior was celebrated, even if it was like publicly condemned. Nevertheless, their fame was never taken away, and it was appealing to somebody who is in that age when rebellion reigns. Or self-destruction, or you name it, okay? There's all different kinds of ways, but it sort of makes it okay. If it's okay for them, then it's okay for me to try doing this, or to do that, or behave that way, or talk like this way or that way. No, it's not. You and I alone are going to stand before God and give an account for our life. And the only account I hope to have is, Lord, your righteousness and not mine. If I've done any good works that are lasting, that withstand the test of fire, and aren't burned up as wood, hay, and stubble, that's fantastic. I hope that happens. I don't know. All I know is I want to make it. I want to be saved from sin and death, and the second death, which is destruction, hell, as it were. That's another topic, whether hell is flames burning forever and ever, or it's just, you have no life ever again. You were gone. You're blotted off out of eternity. Well, then your whole life was vanity. And that's why, again, I think this topic of vain persons is so important. I was going to talk about Led Zeppelin. Didn't happen. Anyway, all right, well, make a great day. I've got to get moving myself. It's getting late. The hour is getting late. All right. Thank you very much. Make a great day.